Jai Hind everyone. I am Shruti Jain, Assistant Professor in NC Department, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College, Ghaziabad. Today we are doing the topic of Introduction, Functions and Classification of Operating System. This comes under the Operating System subject, KCA 203, mainly aimed for MCA students. So coming to what an operating system is. An operating system is basically an interface between the computer hardware and the user, the one who is using the computer. So if we look at the diagram over here, we have multiple users who are using a particular system, and this part includes the software, system software, application software and the operating system, which acts as an interface, which is a part for this and this. So until and unless we have the operating system, the communication between the user, the softwares and the hardware is not possible. So operating system goals are, they execute the user programs and make the solving user problems easier. Because it is an interface, it helps in solving the user problems very easily. It makes the computer system convenient to use and efficiently use the computer hardware. So, in other words, what we can say is that operating system is one program that runs all the time on the computer system, and that is basically the kernel. So, if we look into the different types of operating systems that are persisting nowadays, are Linux operating system, Windows operating system, VMS, OS 400, AIX, etc. Some more definitions of operating system. An operating system is a low-level software that supports a computer basic functions such as scheduling the task and controlling the peripherals. Peripherals are the hardware devices which need to be coordinated between each other, and different tasks, that is the tasks that the user gives to the computer, those tasks need to be scheduled or these need to be regulated, and this is done by the operating system. Now, when we are talking about the operating system acts as two things. The first one is it acts as a resource allocator, and the other one is it acts as a control program. So, when we say that operating system is a resource allocator, that means it manages all the resources that are there in the computer system, and it decides between conflicting requests for efficient and fair resource use. The request which try to access the same resource, suppose we have multiple processes that want a particular access to a resource. So it is the job of the operating system to give the resource to the job that is more in need at that time, and then slowly giving those resources to the rest of the processes. OS acts as a control program as well. It controls the execution of the programs to prevent the errors and improper use of the computer. So the whole sole responsibility of controlling all the things comes under the operating system. So if we look at the figure over here, we have operating system as a resource allocator, where we have the operating system software here, the programs and the data that are underlying into the memory part of the computer system. Then we have a processor. These I/O controllers are interacting with the I/O devices and the storage devices. Now, when these I/O devices and storage devices are interacting with this I/O controller, the operating system manages all those things so that the allocation of the resources to these I/O devices is done properly. Now, we have some of the operating system structures. Some of the operating system structures are simple structure, monolithic structure, layered structure, microkernel, exokernel, and virtual machines. These are the different types of structures that have evolved during the time since the evolution of the operating system. So coming to the layered structure, in the layered structure what happens is the operating system is divided into different layers, like the layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So total of 6 layers are there from 0 to 5. Wherein the least layer, the underlying layer, is the hardware and the user is interacting using the user program. So here the OS is broken into several layers, each built on the top of the lower layers. The bottom layer, that is a hardware layer, is the is the lowermost layer and the topmost layer is a user interface. Now the layers are selected such that each user function and services are only the lower layers. And this approach simplifies debugging and system verification because the first layer can be debugged without concerning the rest of the system. That means it is giving you the concept of modularity, wherein if the error occurs in one of the layers, we need not to debug the whole of the software the whole of the operating system. Rather, we can only debug that layer so that the error can be rectified. If an error is found during debugging of a particular layer, the error must be on that layer because the layers below it are already debugged. So, as we have discussed, if any of the error underlies onto a particular layer, the error would be in that layer only. We need not to touch rest of the layers to identify where the error is. But we have some of the disadvantages of this layer. The main difficulty with this approach involves a careful definition of the layers because a layer can use only those layers below it. If suppose I want to access the memory management, then this management can only access the 3 layers. It cannot access the layers that are above it. So we need to carefully define under what layer what all functionalities will be there so that that layer is in itself a particular module and there is no interlink between the 2 different layers in a way that if an error occurs in one layer, it affects the other layer as well. It is less efficient than a non-layered system because each layer adds overhead to the system calls and the net result is the system call that takes longer time than the non-layered structure. So if we talk about the non-layered structure, because we have everything there into one single system, the system calls are easy to implement rather than moving from one layer to another and then processing the request of the user. Some of the computer system components include the hardware, that is the basic computing resources that provides the basic computing resources like CPU, memory and IO devices. Then we have the operating system as we are discussing right now, which controls and coordinates the use of the hardware among the various application programs for different users who are using the system. Then we have the applications programs. Those are basically the softwares, or the examples include the compilers, database system, video games, or the business programs that you are installing into your system, and ultimately the user who is interacting with the system. So if we look at the abstract view of the computer system, we have multiple users, user 1, 2, 3 and so on, who are working on different application softwares. These all are the system and the application programs. These are again interacting with the operating system and lately come the computer hardware. Coming to the different functions of the operating system, the first function is to manage the memory. Managing the memory over here means the memory or the primary memory. So whatever program is executed has to be present into the main memory so that whenever the user wants to access it, the user can access it, and how the memory is to be given to a particular process or the task that the user wants is managed by the operating system. When a program is completed, the memory region is released and it can be used by other programs. This is again the task of the operating system to check whether the task has been completed and memory can be released or not. Therefore, there can be more than one program present at a time, hence it is required to manage the memory, and this is the task of the operating system. So if we look into the memory management function says that because all of the work that the user is doing, that work has to reside into the primary memory. And since the primary memory is very small, it is not very much. So the processes which are to be currently used are residing into the main memory. And it is a job of the operating system to identify once the task is done, the memory is released so that other processes which are in waiting can access that memory and the programs can be done. The next one, processor management or scheduling. Every software that runs on a computer, whether it is in the background or in the front end, is a process for the computer system. So, Process management is an execution unit in which a program operates. So every process when it comes into the computer, any task that comes into the computer, it is a job of the operating system to identify which job is to be processed at what time, and it is again the job of the operating system to allocate the processor and the resources that are needed. Once that job is done, again it is a job of the operating system to deallocate the resources and the processor from that process once it is completed, so that the processor can be given to the next process. For example, if suppose we need to get a printout, so when we give the print command, then that print needs the printer and also some of the memory on which that particular document is residing. So it is a job of the operating system to identify whether the printer is available to give the printout, and once the printout is given, to remove that access of the printer from that particular resource and give it to some other process if any other process is in wait. The next function is device management. So an operating system regulates the device connection using the drivers. Every device is connected using the device drivers, and it is a job of the operating system to manage or to keep a record of these drivers and to allocate and deallocate the devices to different processes. It also has to keep the record of these devices through device drivers, and it is the job of the operating system to decide which process can use which device and for how much time. The next function that we have is the file management. Again, it is a task of the operating system to manage all the resources that are being allocated and deallocated. It keeps a track of the information or the location or the uses or the status of what all data is coming into the system and going out of the system, how many resources are allocated and how many resources are deallocated from a particular process. So the files on a system are stored in different directories. What OS does is, it keeps a record of the status and the location of the files, it allocates and deallocates the resources, and it decides who gets the resources and at what time. The next function of the operating system is the storage management. Storage management is a procedure that allows users to maximize the utilization of storage devices, which also protect the data integrity on whatever media on which it lives. So how the storage needs to be taken care of is the part of the operating system, because there are multiple files, those need to be stored on a storage media. The operating system uses the storage management for improving the performance of the data storage resources, and it also optimizes the use of the various storage devices. It also assists the businesses in storing more data on the existing hardware. It speeds up the data retrieval process, which prevents the data loss. The retrieval should be in such a way that the data loss should not be there. And rest of the lowering the IT cost, everything is the part of the operating system. It is a function of the operating system. The next function of the operating system is booting the computer. Booting the computer means to start the computer. So we have two types of bootings. The first one is a cold booting and the other one is a warm booting. So if a computer is switched off completely and when you turn it off, that is known as cold booting. But when you restart the computer, that is known as a warm booting. In both the processes, it is the task of the operating system to boot the computer. The next function that we have is the security. Now, the operating system uses different password protections to protect the user's data and similar other techniques. The security measures that are taken by the operating system to protect the user's data are protection against unauthorized access through login. The authorized user who is having the password can only access that data. Protection against intrusion by keeping the firewall active. No other virus or malicious things can enter into your system. Protecting the system memory against the malicious access again. The next one, job accounting. Now, because multiple programs are being given into the system for processing, it is a job of the operating system to maintain the record of what all jobs are coming and then deciding on the priority, like which job is to be executed first and which job will be executed next. And also the operating system keeps a track of time and resources that are being used by various tasks and the users, which the information can be used to track the resource usage for a particular user or the group of users later on. The next one that we have is error detecting aids. The operating system constantly monitors the system to detect the errors and avoid malfunctioning computer systems. Here, the operating system checks the system for any external threat or the malicious software activity. If any activity is going on, it takes care of it and try to remove those errors from the system so that the system does not get damaged. The next topic that we are going to do is the classification of operating system. The first classification of operating system is the batch operating system. Now, what happens in the batch operating system is we have multiple jobs that are coming into the system. Now, when multiple jobs are coming into the operating system, what happens is there are some of the jobs which are of the same nature. Same nature could be, there could be multiple jobs which would need the printer to be accessed. There would be some of the jobs that need the maybe some other thing, some resource A to be used, or many other jobs of that sort. So what this batch operating system does is it combines the similar type of jobs into one batch. So in a single batch, we'll have all those jobs which are of the similar nature. So we have batch 1, batch 2, batch 3. In this way, the operating system, it combines the similar jobs into different batches and then it sends them to the operating system. So if we look into the advantages and disadvantages of the operating system, it is very difficult to guess or know the time that is required for any job to complete. But the process of the batch system know how long a job will be when it is in the queue. Multiple users can share the batch system. The idle time for the batch system is much less. And it is easy to manage large work repeatedly in the batch system. Coming to the disadvantages, the computer operator should be well known with a batch system. Batch systems are hard to debug and it is sometimes costly to use them. Some of the examples are payroll system, bank systems, etc. The next type of operating system that we have is multi-programming operating system, wherein we have a secondary storage device and we have multiple programs that are being residing into the main memory. So it is not the thing that only one process or one program can enter into the operating system for execution. We can have multiple programs so that the CPU time is not wasted. We need to fully utilize the CPU. So there may be multiple programs that reside into the computer system. These programs could be of different nature, like program A wants to write something onto the output device, program B wants to access the CPU, and program C is there which is waiting for the CPU. At a time, only one process can access a particular device or a particular resource. But since the secondary storage device was idle, that is why program A used it. Program B wanted to access CPU, the CPU was idle, so program B used it. But because program C also wanted to use it, it was waiting. So the advantages of multi-programming operating system is CPU always has one program to execute. Response time could also be reduced. The disadvantages: multi-programming systems provide an environment in which various system resources are used efficiently, but they do not provide any user interaction with the computer system. The next type of operating system is multi-processing operating system. Now, in multi-processing operating system, we have parallel computing being done. Parallel computing means we have multiple processors over here. We have CPU 1, CPU 2, but all these processors are sharing the same memory here. Now, the CPU 1 would be having the input-output processor and a separate I/O unit. Similarly, CPU 2 would be having a separate I/O processor and I/O unit. So, when we have multiple processors, we can do multiple jobs at a time. So, there is more than one processor present in the system which can execute more than one process at the same time. This will increase the throughput of the system. So, the advantages and disadvantages of multiprocessing operating system. The advantage is it increases the reliability. Why? Because processing tasks can be distributed among different processors, which increases the reliability, as if one processor fails, the task can be given to the other processor for completion of it. And due to this, because many processors are there, the work is being done at a faster speed, so we get the output is comparatively more. The disadvantages: multiprocessing operating system is complex and sophisticated as it takes care of the multiple CPU simultaneously. The next one that we have is the time sharing operating system. In the time sharing operating system, what happens is we have a single CPU but multiple users are using this system. So here the computer resources are allocated in a time dependent fashion to several programs simultaneously, which helps a large number of users to directly access the main computer. So in time sharing, the CPU is switched among multiple programs given by different users on a scheduled basis. Again, the advantages: the time sharing operating system provides effective utilization and sharing of resources, and it reduces the CPU idle and the response time. Disadvantage: data transmission rates are very high in comparison to other methods, and security and integrity of user programs that are loaded into the memory and data needs to be maintained, as many users are accessing the system at the same time. The next one that we have is the real-time operating system, where the processes are running in the real time, and the applications of real-time software systems, like we have it in the military applications or the weather forecast or to drop a missile. So there the execution is being done in the real time, and if that time is not calculated properly, there could be a huge loss. So in real-time systems, each job carries a certain deadline within which the job is supposed to be completed, otherwise the huge loss could be there. The advantages: it is easy to lay out, develop and execute the real-time applications under the real-time operating systems. Here the maximum utilization of devices and systems is there. Coming to disadvantages, it is costly and very complex to design. The next one is interactive operating system. Interactive operating systems are the operating system that we are currently using. All the operating systems that we are using currently are the interactive operating systems. These are the computers that accept the human inputs. Like the user can give commands which include the softwares like MS Word, spreadsheets. These all are the examples of interactive systems. They facilitate the interactive behavior. Mac and Windows OS are the operating systems which help in interaction with the human. An interactive operating system allows the execution of interactive programs. All PC operating systems are interactive operating systems. Advantages: the first one is usability. An operating system is designed to perform something that is interactive, which allows the user to manage the task more or less in the real time. But it is very tough to design. Like a layman person will not be able to design such interactive operating systems. The next one that we have is multi-user operating system. In the multi-user operating system, we have different terminals, the CPU and the different users who are accessing the system. Here it allows the multiple users to access the underlying hardware resources simultaneously. The multiple users can access the operating system with the help of many terminals which are connected on a network. So when we have a client server thing, then this process the multi-user operating system works. So the objective of a multi-user operating system is time sharing and the batch processing. Coming to advantages and disadvantages, because multiple users are using the system at the same time, it helps in sharing the data and information. It also helps in sharing the hardware resources such as printers. The users can share their work with other users. Coming to disadvantages, the expensive hardware is required. It is complex. When multiple users log on to work on the same system, it reduces the overall performance of the system. The next one that we have is multi-threaded systems, which allows the application to divide its tasks into different threads. In multi-threads, the same process can be done by a number of threads, and we can say that a process is complete when all the threads complete their execution. With the use of multi-threading, multitasking can be achieved. We have two types of threads, the user level thread and the kernel level thread. The user level threads are handled independently from the kernel, thereby managed without any kernel support, whereas the operating system directly manages the kernel level thread. Coming to benefits, multi-threading can improve the performance and efficiency of the program by utilizing the available CPU resources more effectively, and it enables a better resource utilization. But when it comes to drawbacks, if many threads try to access the same data, then the situation of starvation can occur, because it may be possible that one thread is accessing a resource while other threads are still waiting, and they keep on waiting and hence the situation of starvation can occur. Thank you.